Okay, guys. I wanted to walk you through making 50 Razorback projectiles. Or not projectiles, but casings. And also talk about the fact that I made a video not too long back about making black powder shotgun shells, which apparently struck a nerve with some people because they thought that cutting a black powder shotgun shell that was ready to use, or a smokeless smokeless shell that was ready to use, and turn it into something that was not a factory ammo was not the correct way to do things. I made that video for somebody who had an old black powder shotgun and wanted to shoot it, and did not have shot laying around, empty hulls, primers. That was a way to make that round that was usable in a black powder only gun with components that were already there. You already had the shot cup, you already had shot, it already had a primer in it, and it was ready to shoot. All you had to do is cut the end of it off, dump the shot out, you reuse the cup, just reload it with black powder. That was the whole purpose of that video. It struck a nerve with some people, and I'm sorry. This is going to be another destructive video of a case, so if you don't want to watch it, I understand. I apologize in advance. But there are some cases out there that you have to make. For instance, a 50 Razorback, which I only know of 5 in existence, unless somebody has made one externally besides for the person who originally designed them. There's only 5 that I know of. It is a Savage 110 action, and it was chambered in 375 Remington Ultra Mag, and it has a 50 barrel with compensator mounted on it, and it shoots a bullet that looks like this. In order to get to this, there's some steps we have to go to in order to get it. You can't just go buy a 50 Alaskan or something like that and load this thing, because it has the head stamp for a 375 Remington Ultra Mag head stamp. I've tried 300 Win Mag, they will not chamber. Once you make them, they will not chamber. Even whenever they're empty and you just cut them off and that's it, they still won't chamber. I don't know what the deal is in the chamber of this thing, if that's the way he made it, but I've heard a lot of people say you can use any Ultra Mag brass to make this, but that's not true. The only thing I can find that works is 375 Remington Ultra Mag, a rum case. So, that being said, I'm going to walk you through right quick making one of these rounds. You start out with a 375 Remington Ultra Mag casing. Alright? These are brand new. I bought these specifically for this project. I did not have it. I do not own a 375 Remington Ultra Mag, so I'm not hurting anything by destroying this case. Alright, first of all, this has to be cut off right here where this shoulder starts up, so that you can make it look like this. Alright, basically if you line these up here, get them the same length, you see that it's right there. If you try to cut this off below that, it's going to make it too short. It has to be 2.375 in length. Well, 2.375 in length is right to that shoulder. A 223 case will fit with a little persuasion into the end of that neck. That will allow you to put it in the vise and crimp on the head of the 223. You can use a steel case if you want, so you're not messing up your brass. I just happen to have this one laying around. That's the one I decided to use. You put it in there. You get your hacksaw. Keep your hand far out of the way. Grab it on just to the head. You're just trying to stabilize so it don't go up and down. You're on this shoulder, so the blade shouldn't kick. You want to make sure you're going straight down. Short strokes at first. strokes at the end. Then you have something that looks like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this in here to my belt sander, and I'm going to sand it down to where that shoulder, it just opens up the end. I don't want to go down past that. As soon as I see it open up, that's as far as I go. Once I have it opened up like that, I put it in my trimmer, and I'm going to true the end up. I'm going to put it down to 2.375. That's going to true the end and make it to exact length that I need it to be. Once it is done, that is what you'll wind up with. Okay? Then after you have that done, if you try to take and cram a 50 BMG bullet into this thing, it is going to swell the outside of this. Now, sometimes that's a problem, sometimes it's not, depending on the chamber of the gun. If the chamber is a little oversized, it may chamber them just fine, and you may be able to use 300 Remington Ultra Mag brass. Mine will not. So I had to make another tool. This is my other tool. It is a piece of cold roll steel turned down with the 7/8 threads that my press has. It has a normal die locking ring, a 50 BMG projectile drilled and tapped on the inside for 1/4 20 with a bolt to hold it in. That makes it to where you can pull this thing out of the case, so you're not having to use a hammer to pull each one after you seat them. What that's going to do is that's going to give you this nice little graduated bevel here for you to put this in your press, this screwed down, and seat this until it totally seats up past the cantler. That is going to expand your casing. Once the casing is expanded and you pull it back out, then you're ready to load the bullet. You load the bullet by putting the load data I've come up with so far is a 58 grain is the starting load. There's no load data for this gun out there. After contacting the manufacturer, he gave me the burn rate chart of how to load it that way. I've never had much faith in burn rate charts because burn rate charts seem to lie to me most of the time. Well, this, he told me to use 2015 was what he was loading in it. Since he was loading that in it, I decided that was the powder I was going to use because that was what he was getting the best accuracy out of, and he had already tested it in one of his guns. I proceeded with caution, put 58 grains in it, fired it, checked for pressure signs. No pressure signs seen on the bullet with a 750 grain projectile. So a 58 grain I am really comfortable with starting out with the powder. A 2015 Alliant powder. That would be a good starting load, which is 58 grains. I have worked it up from 0.5 grains increments up and have realized that you cannot get enough powder in this to see pressure signs. The max I can get with it being loaded down to the cantler where it has to be seated at, or where it's supposed to be seated at, the lands on the gun are actually longer than that, so you could let the bullet stick out a little bit and put more powder in it. But I prefer to load to the length that it is specified to be loaded at, which is max load of 61 grains. So anywhere between 58 and 61 is my load data. So if you have one of these and you want some load data, that is where I'd start. 2015 powder. The guy that I got the gun from was also loading some 2230, and he was using 58 grains of it, and they shot really well. With a 650 grain bullet, I still stick with the 58 grains load, which basically makes a compressed load. Whenever you mash it down in there at 61, you feel it seat against the powder, and there's no shake. So that I will not go over compressed loads on bullets because I just don't want to see the pressure signs and don't want to have problems, especially on a Wildcat that you know nothing about. If you know nothing about the gun, proceed with caution, especially a Wildcat. and I'm real comfortable with the 58 grains of 2015. It seems to have a lot of recoil. It has significant recoil, but there's no pressure signs on the casing. I don't get any primer flattening. I don't get any head separation, and it's easy to eject. It comes out easier than it went in. What you're going to also find out is once you have it seated, you're going to see this little ridge right here. Now this one will fit in my gun with that ridge. A pair of calipers, as this bullet started, was a 535. Where that little ridge is, if you run up over it, I'm going to say that my max overall cartridge length where that's set, it has to be 542, because I know this bullet will fit. As long as you do not go over 542 in my gun, it will fit. If I measure one, and a lot of Wildcat rounds, it is load one, check it in the gun, make sure it'll fit. If it don't fit, pull the bullet, resize, start over until you get it right. It's a lot of trial and error. That's what a Wildcat's all about. I like Wildcat rounds, but also, like I said, proceed with caution. I know that this will load in my gun, and that is what I have to have. Is the widest width at the top cannot be over 542. Alright, thanks for watching. Questions, comments below. If you have one of these and have a little bit of problems or whatnot, I can give you a little bit of knowledge, maybe, but no guarantees, but I'll give you what I know. Thanks for watching.